All right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer and talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And we opened up the show talking about Super Wildcard weekend, which is kind of technically still going on. But unfortunately, the Bears won a playoff game, which means by our own rules, we had to take a shot of Jeppson's Malort.
We did that, and that was the only alcohol we had because we actually tried a really new and good NA beer, kind of in the spirit of Dry January, from Big Grove.
Yeah. Even though we're kind of doing Dry January, but obviously the Malort kind of blew that away anyways, too. We also spent a good portion of the episode talking about where the Vikings can go from here into the future now that the 2025 season is over.
Yeah, the future definitely seems bright, but I think we're going to see a lot of changeover, and it'll be interesting to see where the Vikings go from.
Absolutely.
So, if you're ready for episode 122 of the Skol Hop, grab your favorite beverage and join us.
Skol.
All right, we're going to give just a quick shout out to That's Badass Wood Art. They made this awesome little piece right here. If you're not watching us, you should be watching us. But if you're just listening, what I'm holding in my hand is a piece of wood art that says Skol. And in the middle of the O is the outline of the state of Minnesota. And it's made by That's Badass Wood Art. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And we're getting our very own custom piece that's going to look like this.
Yep. Any episode now, it'll be up there.
It'll look like our logo, the Skol Hop logo. So we're excited about that. And you can get excited about That's Badass Wood Art too by going to their website. And if you enter our promo code Skol Hop, SKOLHOP, all one word, you'll get 10% off any and all orders.
Yeah.
And they do like more than just sports stuff, right? Like pop culture, and there's a bunch of stuff in their store. So
even custom pieces too.
Yeah,
I think I've said before. The next piece I'm going to order for myself is the disgusting act, is what it's called on the website. It may feature a prominent former Vikings wide receiver performing what has been noted as a disgusting act on television. It's pretty funny. So yeah.
I saw Randy Moss was on the ESPN pregame shows on Sunday before the games, and they all go around and ask like, okay, who do you predict? Who's gonna win? And they were predicting the Packers-Bears game, and Randy Moss goes, "Nah, I can't in good faith give my vote to the Packers. They fined me $10,000 or something like that." The league fined you $10,000.
Yeah.
He went with the Bears, and he was right. So.
Yeah. So was I. But thank you. That's Badass Wood Art. Go ahead and use that promo code, guys, and let us know. Send us photos if you do order something. Comment with it or tweet at us and let us know. They're pretty cool.
Speaking of the Bears,
yeah.
I think you made this claim that we were going to do this every time the Bears
I don't know. I think it was you. I think you mentioned it.
So is this like every time the Bears win, period?
No.
Or just in the playoffs?
I think we mentioned anytime, God forbid, the Vikings lose to the Bears or any Bears playoff victory, we are going to, as the Skol Hop, take a shot of Jeppson's Malort. Which we have now. We've done this once on the show before. We had friend of the show, Forrest, with us the first time. And, I don't remember hating it. I didn't like it, but I don't remember hating it. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this, Ev. Don't smell it. And you just jammed it in your nose.
Hit it on my face, so I apologize for the germs. Do you want to smell it?
No, I'm good.
I feel like smelling it makes it a little easier to palate later.
You think so? No, I just take, as a surprise. It's a surprise. But yeah, we'll do a shot. We'll honor this. It's kind of a physical manifestation of our dislike for the Bears. And whenever the Bears lose, we just won't take a shot of Malort. Yeah, also comment. Let us know if you've tried Malort. If you like Malort, I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm still in the category of I don't like Malort, but I think I could be swayed.
I don't like it, but I'll do a shot of it
Did you see the guy on TikTok all of December that had purchased like the Malort advent calendar?
Yes, I did see that.
And was doing this whole bit.
It's about, a Malort.
He's like, all right, here's day 3 of me trying this calendar and trying to guess what it is just off taste and smell. And the joke was that they all were from Malort.
They were the little like shooters, weren't they?
That was pretty funny. But yeah, Ev, I think we just shoot it. Skol.
Oh, yeah. That'll hit you.
There's a burn.
It seriously tastes like dandelions. It tastes like flowers.
Yeah.
But
I'm not there
sour,
yet.
Really sour. It's very sour, very bitter.
I'm not there yet, but I think given enough chances, which hopefully we don't get, because I'm not drinking Malort on my own. You know, like it's strictly on this podcast. And I think given enough opportunities, I could come around to Malort. But I'm still not there yet. It's still a punishment. But yeah, Skol.
Well, we have some beer. I think that would be a good way for us to move on from... I'm still like...
Yeah, it's still burning. Like it's kind of still building up inside here.
But you brought the beer.
I did.
And we're taking a little bit of a detour.
A little
in a
bit.
Good way.
Yeah.
In a healthy way.
Healthier way. Yeah. So it is January, and there is the popular phenomenon known as dry January. Something, obviously, I'm not participating fully 100% in dry January. You just
took a
2
shot.
seconds ago witnessed me taking a shot of liquor here. But I'm doing kind of a modified version of dry January. I'm definitely one that, I'm at least a 12-pack a weekend, and, if we go out, I might get a beer with dinner. And so I was thinking, like, it might be good just to kind of cut back. So I'm doing, what would they call it, like a damp January. I very much enjoy having the typical 2 to 3 beers we have while we record on Monday nights for this podcast. So I think the agreement I made is that I'll kind of tone it down and do more like 1 or 2 for the month of January during the podcast. And then that'll be it for my consumption throughout the month. So kind of my own version of a dry January. So in the nature of that, one of our favorite breweries, Big Grove, out of Iowa City, this year, just like within this week, they released a new version of their popular Eddy. And it's called the Zero Eddy. And it's along the lines of their IPA line of the Eddies and the Royal Eddy and the Easy Eddy, all the Eddies that they have. This is just one more. It's a non-alcoholic hazy IPA. If you've ever tried an NA beer, you can kind of attest that there are some that taste pretty good. There are some that are like, all right, this is okay. And lots of them are not great. You have not had the Zero Eddy yet, have you?
I have not, so I'm excited to try it.
I tried it just the other day for the first time with friend of the show, Forrest. He is also doing a dry January, I think more dry than my version of dry January. But he brought over a few of these Zero Eddies, and I gotta say, they're pretty good.
Didn't you say when you walked into my house, you said, if you were to hand me this and just a regular Eddy, I may not be able to tell the difference?
I didn't say like taste testing. If you were taste testing them right next to each other, you'd definitely be able to tell there was a difference. But if someone just like, you go to the bar and they pour you a beer in a glass and you just say, hey, surprise me. If they handed you this in a glass, you might not be able to notice. Maybe eventually, but like it wouldn't be immediately noticeable. I think let's
pour crack these open
and go.
Let's try it out. We'll give it the old Austin pour here.
So one thing about NA beers is it's kind of hard for them to have solid head retention. And I've noticed with the Zero Eddy, they did a really good job of making sure that it kept a solid head, at least for a little while. It's not as as solid as a head retention as like an Easy Eddy, but it's definitely up there. It's something that they put a lot of time and attention into. You can tell it's still very hazy looking. You're not seeing through it, only a little bit of light's coming through. It looks like a hazy IPA.
And it smells like a beer too.
Oh yeah, it smells like a nice hazy IPA. Like if you hadn't had an Easy Eddy in a while and someone handed this to you, you might definitely think, oh yeah, thanks for the Eddy, like thank you for the Easy Eddy. So I'm just excited to get your opinion. Obviously I've had it recently and I really like it, but Skol.
I think the Malort is still
it's still in there.
But it's good. Like I can taste the hazy hoppiness of it all. Yeah, I can drink a few of these.
Yeah,
0.05%.
Yeah, and it says less than 0.5%.
0.5.
So there's still probably anywhere up to 0.05% alcohol in here. So it's not 100%. Completely non-alcoholic, but enough that they can legally put that non-alcoholic phrase on there. There's really nothing on the can describing it other than it says Zero Eddy non-alcoholic hazy IPA. So it is what it is. I like it. If you're thinking about kind of cutting back or even just trying an NA that you've never tried before, this one's pretty new, and as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the better ones out there on the market.
Yeah, it is good for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to the next few, and it's still going to scratch that itch. So yeah, if you're looking to cut back, but you still want to go through the motions and enjoy a nice hazy IPA, this is definitely one on there. Thank you, Big Grove, for brewing such a good. It's still a beer. It's just a non-alcoholic beer.
Yep.
So yeah.
Let's talk Wildcard weekend. The Vikings didn't play, but we can still do roses, thorns, game balls, the whole 9 yards if we want to.
Did we talk about it last episode or the one before that there was, I forget, was it a Score North person that kind of outlined how close, in hindsight, how close the Vikings were to making it? It was that
kickoff return against the Bears that they allowed.
Yeah.
That kind of was the linchpin of it all. Had that not happened and they beat the Bears in that game, and then they won all the games that they won at the end of the season, the Vikings are in the playoffs and the Packers aren't, and it could have been it could have very well been a Vikings Bears playoff game.
Absolutely, yeah.
Instead of a Packers Bears game.
Mm-hmm. And you can't know exactly how things would have unfolded, but yeah, like you said, if the Vikings hadn't have let that Devin Duvernay long kickoff return happen, which ultimately ended up in points. I don't know if it was a touchdown or at least points. If they had held that drive to no points or whatever, and then won that game, and then everything else in the season happened the same exact way that it did for the Vikings, the 5-game winning streak and everything, then yeah, they're very well could have been that Packer-Vikings game could have been 4. They could have been playing for that final seed in the NFL or NFC playoffs, and that's just how close it is. You never really know, like, you move this one puzzle piece and boom, it's all different. Didn't the NFL or like ESPN Fantasy do some commercial a few years ago where like it looked like an NFL game and then it like zoomed into, a running back, and he's like, this isn't just a 4-yard gain. This is the rest of the season. If I make this 4-yard gain, it's a first down, we go on to win, and then we make the playoff. It's kind of like the domino effect or the butterfly effect. Like, so they weren't too far off, even with such a frustrating season for the most part. But they didn't make it. You can't what if your way all the way, to giving themselves a playoff spot. They just didn't make it flat out. But other teams did. And that's where we are right now. Currently, the Steelers are in halftime. I didn't see the score.
7-6.
7-6. Pittsburgh is up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you sure? Because I thought the Texans had scored that touchdown.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I have them reversed. 7-6 Houston over Pittsburgh. My fault. We go. I had them. My wires crossed.
Yep. We're good. No worries. I figured we could kind of go through our normal format here. We give like roses and thorns and a game ball to somebody. So far, yes, there's still one more half of Wildcard weekend of a wildcard weekend game to be played. But so far, throughout all of wildcard weekend, Evan, what's your rose for this Super Wildcard weekend?
I think it's the fact that the Eagles lost. And they lost at home, right? They were playing in Philly last night. I'm pretty sure they were.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
And they lost despite the Niners losing George Kittle to an Achilles, it looks like. So, I just think, none of us Vikings fans like the Eagles. It was a little bit, there's some redemption there of like, okay, good, they didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's the Eagles fans.
Yes, I know.
I don't necessarily have a huge issue with most of their players. Their coach is kind of a giant D-bag. And then that one big dude that isn't a coach, but he's apparently important. Dom. Yeah, Dom. He seems like a massive personification of all the terrible Eagles fans out there. So the coach and that one guy are huge D-bags, and then all the fans, in my opinion, can just eat sand or whatever. But like as far as the rest of the team, it's like whatever. Like Saquon Barkley seems like a really good dude.
Yeah, for
Jalen
sure.
Hurts kind of seems like quietly eccentric, so like I probably wouldn't hang out with him, but he wouldn't hang out with me. So I mean it's fine. But yeah, for their Eagles fans, I'm really glad they lost.
I saw a funny meme after the Eagles lost that said something like, yeah, there's a Philadelphia city employee who's equally sad that the Eagles lost, but also equally happy that he doesn't have to grease 468 light poles in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the city probably made that purchase already. Like, whoa. Did they grease the poles last night just in preparation of the game? Maybe it still was worth it because people would have rioted anyways. But yeah, that's a good rose, Ev, that the Eagles lost. I didn't even really think about that. I was thinking more close to the Vikings. But
which is your rose?
Yeah, my rose is, anytime the Packers lose, that's a good day, especially in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? That's great. Which I know makes me seem, and I am, really petty. But the old phrase is, my favorite teams are the Vikings and whoever is beating the Packers. And I think if you were to ask the average Packer fan, their hated team isn't the Vikings, and that's fine. But if you really look at the NFC North for the last couple decades, the Bears have tried a little bit. They've had a couple seasons here and there, and as of late, the Lions have decided they're good even though they suck, and the Lions fans are the worst fans in all of sports. Lions fans are the absolute worst fans in all of sports. You guys suck. But yeah, it's the NFC North, other than a couple weird seasons, has been a battle of the Packers and the Vikings. And yes, admittedly, it's probably been mostly the Packers that they probably edged out the Vikings a little bit.
The Aaron Rodgers years that were
the major contributors. The Brett Favre years too. I mean, But even then, like the late 90s, yeah, Brett Favre was elite, and they won a Super Bowl in 96. But like the Vikings were right up there too, 98 and the year 2000. It was a decent juggernaut time in the NFC North between the Vikings and the Packers. And again, the Lions have been awful, and Lions fans are the absolute freaking worst cesspool of a group of fanhood in all of sports. Just to throw that out there again.
You're obnoxious.
I'm just remembering that time you said something like, "I'm not concerned about Lions fans or the Lions at all," and then their fans just ripped apart our TikTok with you saying that, which, I mean, it was good engagement, but it just proved that Lions fans are the worst cesspool collection of garbage in all of fanhood.
We don't need to talk about the Lions because they didn't make the playoffs.
They didn't, just like the Vikings. But yeah, my rose, if I haven't said it yet, it's that the Packers lost. So that's always a good time when the Packers lose. I'm here for it.
Your thorn is closely connected.
It may be, so I guess I'll go right into that. My thorn, which it was going to be one or the other, but my thorn is that the Bears won. I did end up watching the game.
I turned it off at halftime and went to bed because I thought the Packers were going to win.
I think everybody did. We all did. But I ended up watching the game with friend of the show, Forrest. We have a running joke that my basement has a projector screen, and anytime, whether it's his team, whether the Bears or Michigan Wolverines, or my team, the Hawkeyes or the Vikings, whenever he and I are taking in the football game at that basement home theater screen that I have, it's just awful. It's an instant, our favorite team is going to lose. So he was really happy that the curse has been broken. The curse of my basement has been broken. I still think, it can still be there for his favorite teams. But my thorn is that the Bears won. I figured they would. I think I said as much on the episode last week that the Bears would beat out the Packers. I don't know, unless they're suddenly the team of destiny. I don't really know how deep they're going to go. I think, do they play the Rams in this next week's matchup? I might be wrong on that, but I think that's how it's working. I think the Rams have it, even though the Rams kind of looked fallible against the Panthers, but I think that was more on the Panthers looking good than the Rams looking bad. But yeah, if I had to pick any thorn, other than the Vikings didn't make the playoffs, it was that the Bears won.
Well, that's my thorn, is that the Vikings weren't playing. And
I do that all the time. I'm sorry. I didn't even read your thorn before I just said
I think
my
there's
last sentence.
Subliminal, you just read it and then you internalize it. But we're all thinking it, right? Sure, we can root against the Packers and we can be happy for the Bears because they don't often get to experience moments like this. And we know a lot of Bears fans because where we live,
we are in Bear territory.
We are in Bear country. But it was a little frustrating, especially for the reasons we just mentioned a few minutes ago about how close the Vikings were in hindsight. It didn't feel like the Vikings were close most of the season. It just felt like, well, let's just throw in the towel. And I was even saying for a few weeks there, just tank and get the draft pick and get the better schedule and let's move on, But it always sucks when your team isn't playing and you have to watch other teams. So that's my thorn.
Yeah, I think I'm not over it yet, but as far as the playoffs go, I think I'm ready to be entertained. This wild card weekend, for the most part, most every game was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think the game between the Patriots and the Chargers was probably the biggest dud of them. And even that wasn't a terrible watch. It was just the most boring of all of them. But yeah, every other game seemed to come down to the wire. The Bears tried to make it a Packer blowout on them, but they came back and made it a really cool, entertaining game to watch as a football fan. But yeah, I think I'm over the fact that the Vikings aren't in it anymore. This year was just not the year. They wouldn't have won a playoff game even if they had etched their way in, unless for some reason J.J. McCarthy had figured something out. But when you got a guy that takes himself out of the final game of the season, almost quits on the team, that's probably not going to happen this year. Had the Vikings and Packers played for that 7 seed in that last week, maybe he doesn't take himself out, but you can't really bank on that.
You're going to hold on to that into next season.
It's a big thing. You're QB1. I get your hand hurt. I get it. But also, and he said, I had to make a grown man decision to pull myself out of the game. But QB1, that's not the grown man decision is to eke it out and do what Carson Wentz did earlier in the season and basically, be a sacrifice on the field, come to the sideline and just be broken down and resorting to, muted tears because you're in such pain. I'm not rooting for people to be in pain, but if you're a QB1 in the NFL, boo-hoo, your hand hurts. My hand has hurt before too, but you're QB1. You're QB1 in the NFL. It sends such a message when you pull yourself out of game, when you quit on the game. So yes, I am gonna hold on to that, just like my opinion of Lions fans, which I almost went into again, but I'm not going to. They know how I feel.
We'll have to end this right now. I'm tired of hearing it. Who gets your game ball? I am interested in that.
Yeah, so for all of Wildcard weekend, Super Wildcard weekend, maybe there were more deserving players than who I'm going to give it to, but after his game against the Eagles and the way that he ended the game pretty much with almost an interception, but definitely a tipped ball to call a game, I think former Vikings linebacker, current 49ers linebacker, Eric Kendricks is the most deserving of my game ball. Yes, there's some homer aspect to that decision. I've always been a fan of Eric Kendricks. It's fun to see him still out there. I think he's 33 or 34 at this point, which, man, that's ancient, Evan. That's definitely not almost as old as we are right now. But yeah, he's still out there. I think for the most part, he played a really good game. And I think he was a practice squad player up until that game, or even like during that game, but pretty sure he's on the 53 now for the Niners. But yeah, it was a good story, and I'm almost rooting for the Niners now just because of Eric Kendricks.
He had 10 tackles, only one behind Garrett Wallow, who had 11 and led both teams. So, like, he was up there. He had more tackles than any single Eagle player had. So, yeah, that's a good game ball to give. I'm going to give mine to Josh Allen.
Okay.
And I know the Bills didn't play a flawless game, and the Jags were in it. And if not for that interception at the end of the game, you know, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags were kind of in it and looked like they might do it. But Josh Allen threw for 1, ran for 2 touchdowns. If that doesn't scream MVP to you, like 3 touchdowns by yourself, that's impressive. Didn't throw an interception. He took 1 sack. That's a heck of a game in the playoffs on the road. Granted, you're playing in Florida where it's nice.
Yeah, but still, it's away. I mean, yeah, most of the fans are not cheering for you.
And the Bills will now go to Denver. Like, I think the Bills have one of the toughest roads because they're the 6th seed, and they're going to be on the road probably until the Super Bowl if they make it that far.
Yeah, I think it's like it was officially announced, and something we could, you know, confirm if we did 1 minute of research, but I'm pretty sure they announced there will never be another football game at the Bills' current stadium.
Highmark.
Are they going immediately next season to their new stadium, or do they have like a kind of like the Vikings did, like a couple buffer years somewhere else? I don't know.
My understanding is they're going right into the new one.
Okay,
because they built it like right across the parking lot from their current one.
That's cool. I like when teams open up new. I like when they do new uniforms and new stadiums, and like because stadiums, I mean, it's like a shrine to football, even if it is for another team. Like I think it's pretty cool to see a brand new football stadium. I still think, even though this was the conclusion of the 10th season at US Bank Stadium for the Vikings, it is still one of the most elite football stadiums in the NFL and one of the coolest sports venues I've ever been to.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any better. Sure, you could probably name 1 or 2 that I might be like, oh yeah, they're at least as good as US Bank Stadium. But man, US Bank is still, after 10 years, like still really good.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
yeah, that was Super Wildcard weekend. As things sit right now, it's halftime of the final game of Wildcard weekend. Texans Steelers, they're about to start the second half, or I think they may have just done kickoff of the second half, and it's a close game. One that I think the Texans very well could win. The Steelers are in the playoffs right now, mostly because of a missed kick for the Ravens, which is why Jim Harbaugh is an available coach. But yeah, that's where things sit. I think we'll, from here on out until the end of the Super Bowl, we'll kind of give our updated opinions of the games as they go on. But then we're going to focus right back on the Vikings.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
you shared a good article that I'm looking at again here from Vikings Territory. Did friend of the show Dustin write it?
No, that one was, I'm going to butcher his name just because I've never heard it spoken out loud, but I think it's Ali Siddiqui. I definitely follow him on Twitter, and he's a good Twitter follow. I don't know his exact handle right now, but we will link this article in our show notes. It's more of an opinionated based article from Ali, kind of giving out, well, what's the title?
Where the Vikings go from here.
Yeah, so it's kind of talking about, and I think it was posted yesterday, the day before.
Yep, yesterday.
And it's just kind of talking about, all right, the playoffs are gone, the Vikings missed it, and it basically outlines 3 things that regardless of what they do, these 3 things are what the Vikings kind of should focus on. And I figured we could kind of list out the 3 things and kind of go from there. Real quick, the first thing they talk about is J.J. McCarthy's trajectory. And then it talks about the cost cutting of veterans that the Vikings could do to kind of manipulate the cap and get under the cap. I think they're almost $50 million over the cap as things sit right now for next season. So they got to do something. They got to move some stuff around. And then there's a couple more things they talk about, kind of looking at the draft class a little bit. Some free agent targets that the Vikings could kind of look at. And then a little bit of coaching and what could happen specifically if Brian Flores moves on for a different job, what the Vikings could do. So I guess let's just dive in. Evan, first thing they talk about, J.J. McCarthy. Ali in the article doesn't necessarily say his opinion of like, oh, they need to get rid of J.J. McCarthy right away and trade for or sign the best option, immediately available. Just do it right now. But he doesn't also say like, oh, they have to stick with them 100%. He just kind of says like, all right, here's how that could look. Basically says like, yeah, JJ showed some improvement late in the season. He did miss the Christmas game, but in the last 5 wins, JJ, for the most of them, had a good hand in all of those, which I didn't do this on purpose, but he missed most of the second half of the last game because of his bad hand. But that's the other thing. He frequently hampered by injuries. He missed a lot of the season due to injury. And you could argue a game or two whether or not there was actually an injury or if there was more like, hey, this is convenient. Let's see what we have in Max Brosmer. And then in the article, Ali just kind of says like, if health concerns and performance concerns kind of persist through next season, then the Vikings should be looking to move on and take the franchise in another direction. Evan, based off all that, what is your biggest concern for J.J. McCarthy specifically heading into the 2026 season?
I think it has to be the injury thing, right? Like, you saw the improvement. You saw him go from kind of this, like, almost lucky son of a gun in the first couple of games.
Mm-hmm. Really the first game, because the second game was the Falcons game where he looked absolutely horrible.
Right. But you saw him go from that to, being fairly competent. And I know, like, the mechanics, that was all the rage there for a few weeks in the middle of the season. He had all those wild throws, and he's flinging his leg off to the side. Yeah. And we also heard all the sound bites of how they were simplifying the game plan, dumbing it down to make it easier for him to digest and make it easier for him to look out over center and see what he needed to see to be effective. And I think he showed progress that way. So I think in terms of learning the game and adjusting to the speed of the game in the NFL, he did okay. It's not an A+. It's probably not even a B+. It's probably like a C-. But he did okay. He did okay enough to pass. The injuries are what's concerning to me. He missed an entire season. Like, it doesn't even feel like he missed an entire season because we had Sam Darnold and we were so distracted with him that it was just like, oh yeah, we have that kid. Mm-hmm. But it still felt like he was very much in college and not on the team. Mm-hmm. And so this felt like his rookie year, even though it wasn't. And this was hampered by injury too. So I think that's my major concern if I'm Kevin O'Connell is, what's the longevity of this kid? Like, sure, I can mold him, shape him, get him game ready, but if he's hurt, he can't play. Yeah. And that's where I really think they're going to have to find a quality backup. I know late last week, Kirk Cousins restructured his deal with the Falcons, and everybody was like, oh, the writing's on the wall. Kirk is coming back. He's going to fill that spot. And I don't know if it's a guy like that necessarily. I think you try to target a younger guy. If you bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins, you're going to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get backup service. Like you're not going to get A, you're not going to get great quarterback play, and B, we've seen this happen before in the league where the backup comes in and takes the job. Like Tom Brady did it, right? From Drew Bledsoe. And, once Bledsoe got hurt, Tom Brady comes in and he never let go after that. Bledsoe had to leave, go find another job. It was kind of the same in Kansas City. You had Alex Smith get hurt, and who came in for him? It wasn't Patrick Mahomes. It was was it Mahomes?
Yeah.
I feel like there was somebody between Mahomes and Smith.
Yeah, it was Smith. He got injured,
but he tore his leg up, which was awful. But anyways, like we've seen that happen time and time again, where it's just the young guy comes in, and so I think the Vikings need to target a younger backup who has potential, not the Carson Wentz, not the Kirk Cousins, not even the Aaron Rodgers. I know that was a huge talker for a while. I don't care if he's healthy and, let's say he loses tonight and doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, and he gets a wild hair that he wants to come back next year. I just don't care. Nope. Young, lots of potential, and somebody that could be that, like, Kickstarter that the franchise needs to take him out if JJ McCarthy isn't that.
Yeah, you mentioned Kirk Cousins. I'm a fan of Cousins, the
man.
person.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I was definitely a fan of Cousins, the Viking, and at the time I was kind of my main preference when his era was ending was let Cousins walk and draft a guy, but I also wouldn't have been super pissed if they had tried to run it back with Cousins at the time in 2024. It would have been, but the Cousins era is done. Let him go wherever he wants to go. Some team will take him easily and start him, maybe to be a bridge quarterback for a rookie that they're going to draft here. When he came in for Michael Penix this year, he looked fine, but not like world beating. His stats were, every game was in the 100 to 200 passing yards with 1 or 2 touchdowns. Like, it's solid, for a regular guy to come in, but not something you want to, better your team with. So yeah, I mean, my thoughts on JJ McCarthy, just to kind of go back, is, I think he was showing improvement, and yes, it was against the Commanders and or was it against the Giants? Yeah, the Giants is when he missed half the game because of that initial hand injury too. But the Cowboys, and he was starting to look pretty good against the Packers in the last game until he pulled himself out. And yes, that was against a Packers team that was sitting so many players, and they didn't really care to win or anything. But it doesn't change the fact that McCarthy was still making some decent passes and still looking good. So I think I've said it before. I might have said it last week. I'm definitely, as far as 2026 goes, for me, I'm okay with them running it back, JJ McCarthy, giving him this. I mean, they say year 3 for the quarterback, which, yeah, he was injured his whole first year, but this is going to be year 3 for him. I'm okay with them keeping him as QB1. I'm not one that's sitting here saying, they have to trade for Joe Burrow, or they have to do everything they can to replace JJ McCarthy with, an MVP or even Pro Bowl level quarterback. I mean, you drafted him, you need to give him a chance, even if it's not looking good at first. I am also okay if they try to bring in, competent competition. If they do pay for someone like a Malik Willis, if financially he makes sense, and I'm talking like $15 million, if they can figure that out, not $40 million, if they can bring in a guy at that level where it's like, okay, maybe he can compete, but it's not an obvious replacement level player. If JJ has to go through an off season and win the job or keep the job in a competition, I think that's good. There's something to be said about that. But yeah, I'm okay if they run into next season with JJ starting game 1 and going from there. Because I think there is stuff to see. I think even though his mechanics are weird, I mean, you can always fix that, or you can work around that. I mean, one of the best plays Caleb Williams had in the playoff game against the Packers was this like desperation run to the sideline, throw off of his, front foot or whatever, and he kind of skipped into it, and he threw a beautiful ball to, I forget who it was, Roma Doomsday or Colson Loveland. It was to the sideline. But, like, they immediately praised him, and then they showed the replay, and the announcers were like, yeah, it was terrible for him, but, like, hey, he put the ball exactly where it needed to go. So if JJ has terrible form, but he gets the ball exactly where it needs to go, isn't the job done by then anyways? So as of JJ right now, for me, I'm okay with him still being QB1, and then even if he has to earn it, let him earn it, and if he loses it, then that's how the Cards play too. Let's let Kyler Murray play if that's who they really want, or something like that. But yeah, I'm okay with them keeping him in.
I think they're going to pay too much for a guy like Kyler. I think it's got to be like the only starter that I could see, but previous starter, I should say, the Vikings bringing in would be Will Levis. And that's just because he's coming off an injury and he'll be somewhat cheap. He doesn't really have the track record to prove that he's, an elite level quarterback. Yeah. He's okay, I think.
He almost beat the Vikings. Was it even as late as the 2024 season, last season? Mm-hmm. So there's something there. We have gotten something that I'll consider almost a little bit more than a rumor, that the Vikings might be interested in Kyler Murray, and that they might pursue that a little bit harder than you would anticipate at this stage. But I think that would still require a trade, and then taking on either a restructured deal or at least a more expensive deal than you have right now with your current backup. But yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't have any control over that, which is fine. No Vikings fans, including myself, want me to be making any decisions for the roster. As much as I say Kwesi needs to be gone, he's still probably more apt to build an NFL roster than I ever will be, and I have no problem saying that. But yeah, I think the way things sit right now, it would almost be dumb to not bring in somebody who's probably more, able to play quarterback than Max Brosmer. But at this point, Brosmer is a practice squad level guy that may have the potential to be a QB2 in the future, but I don't think he's there yet.
Well, let's keep the GM hat on, because we're going to have to probably get rid of some players, because the Vikings are $46 million over the cap, and I think that, one, that's just crazy, and number two, I'm ready to get rid of most of them, honestly. You've got some of them listed out here from the Vikings Territory article: TJ Hawkinson, Jonathan Allen, Aaron Jones, Javon Hargrave, Ryan Kelly. They're all newer acquisitions. TJ's been around the longest, followed by Aaron Jones, and then the rest of them were all brought in this last offseason. But I think you can save a lot of money by getting them off of your payroll, and if you do it the right way, that post June 1st cut is usually more beneficial to teams. So
to spread it out.
I'm thinking that's the route that the Vikings go with a couple of these guys anyways, just to build the cap back up to a manageable point. 46 million seems unmanageable to me. But again, we're not making those decisions. But let's talk about TJ for a minute.
Yeah. I am a fan of TJ Hawkinson. I think most of that is because I'm an Iowa Hawkeyes fan. Before that really cheap shot from
Kirby Joseph.
Yeah, and the worst team in the league, maybe the dirtiest team in the league, the Lions, with the worst fan base in the league. Before that cheap shot, TJ Hawkinson was still, up to par with being one of the better tight ends in the league. I don't know if he's ever been the tight end, because there's always been, Gronkowski, and then, even like Mark Andrews in Baltimore, and Travis Kelce, if you want to say he's one of the better ones. There's always been Tucker Kraft right now for the Packers. There's always been, probably a better tight end than TJ Hawkinson. But when he was, before that injury, he was elite, Pro Bowl level player, worthy of, I think, the contract that he's currently under, which I forget the total of his contract, but it's not really that important now. So they're saying if they cut him with a post-June 1 designation, which basically means you spread that dead money hit between 2026 and then 2027 rather than taking it all in 2026. Just doing that would save you, if this article is right, $16 million on the cap. So that puts you right at 30 right there. I agree. It makes financial sense to move on from TJ Hawkinson. And I even think in the article it says like a restructure might be possible. I tweeted earlier today, TJ Hawkinson is the kind of player that if he were currently on another team and about to be a free agent, he'd be on those lists that these articles put out all the time. Like, here's free agents the Vikings might be interested in. Like, he would absolutely be one of those guys. It's like, oh yeah, he's coming off, he was really good, but then got injured and he's kind of warming up still, but he might be cheap. So let's get him in Minnesota, and Vikings fans would be excited about that. So why not just, restructure his deal? He's got to be smart enough to know, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get more elsewhere. So let's stay here. I like Minnesota. It's nice here. Let's stay here. So I'm hoping TJ Hawkinson is still a Viking after this year, but I definitely understand, business-wise, if he's not.
Yeah, and I think I'm just thinking purely from a numbers standpoint. Like, at some point, you have to make some moves. And I also feel like Kwesi's better in free agency anyways. And the league has become so dependent on this free agency cycle. There aren't very many teams that just simply draft and develop and don't play the free agency game. Like, there are these big splashy moves that happen all the time. And I think the Vikings should be sellers a little bit here so that they can be buyers later, And I think they've got a good core. Josh Oliver proved that he's a good tight end. I don't know that the Vikings need a tight end necessarily.
Yeah.
And there's that other, what was it, Sims or whatever his name was?
Ben Sims, yeah.
He played several snaps when we were at that game against the Packers. So it's not like the Vikings don't have any depth at that position. They do, and I think you can always draft one. You can always go out and get another one in free agency. I'm not trying to say that I don't like TJ Hawkinson, but I think the productivity that we saw out of him post that Kirby Joseph injury really sidelined his career. Not totally tanked it, but definitely, hit it in the knee, for lack of a better term.
Well, I will say, too, part of his production on the stat sheet this year was definitely affected by the help that the offensive line needed. The Vikings took TJ Hawkinson, whose contract and, former game tape puts him out there as like an elite pass catching, like playmaking tight end, almost wide receiver 3. I think for a while, friend of the show Dustin was basically calling TJ Hawkinson wide receiver 3, almost functionally. But 2025 necessitated more blocking help. No matter who the tight end was, like Kevin O'Connell needed that tight end to be in there to help with Christian Darrisaw if he was in there after that injury, which apparently there was some kind of his injury needed more help to heal, and like his initial repair. This is Christian Darrisaw. The initial repair to his leg and knee may have been one of those situations where the repair could have been done better, I guess. But apparently in the future, once he's fully healthy, like it's not like a long-term concern. But either way, this year, that left side needed some help from a tight end in blocking. And then there was even times where Brian O'Neill was banged up a little bit this season. So that right side needed help in blocking. We witnessed it firsthand on a couple of times when J.J. McCarthy would run out of the pocket, and he ran for a couple of touchdowns. And at least once or twice, we saw J.J. McCarthy run straight into the end zone right behind a solid block of TJ Hawkinson. So I think it just this year needed TJ Hawkinson to be more of a blocking tight end for the Vikings. And regardless of your health, if that's what's asked of you and that's the game plan, you're not going to have 1,000 yards receiving as a tight end. You're not going to get more than, I think he only got 2 or 3 touchdowns, but there were flashes there. So hopefully for my fanhood, they figure out a way to keep him at a good number and not, mortgage the future because of a tight end that I like.
Who on that list do you think is most likely gone? Like who's as good as gone as at this point?
So let's refresh here really quick. That list you're talking about from the article, you read it off a few minutes ago, but it's TJ Hawkinson, defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, running back Aaron Jones, another defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, center Ryan Kelly, and then they also list right tackle Brian O'Neill, but they kind of list him and say more so that he should be extended or restructured because he's going into the final year of his contract, and that's why his cap number is so high at like $23 million. But if I had to look at that list, like you said, and pick, who'd you say the most likely I want back?
No, who's gone?
Okay.
Who do you think is basically the writing's on the wall? They're not coming back. I think I know who you're going to say. But.
I mean, I think I don't know specifically the numbers. I'm not sure if they list it in the article, but I think my mantra is always don't pay running backs.
I knew you were going to say that.
I want to preface this. From the day Aaron Jones signed, I had this mindset. You could go back to whatever episode of the Skol Hop and hear me. I think I even told on the show, friend of the show, Dustin, like I'm not really expecting too much from Aaron Jones. And to his credit, he has blown my expectations out of the water. Yeah. So he's been on the team for 2 seasons now. Last year, his first season, 2024, he didn't miss any games. He missed some time in some games, but he never missed a game, which that alone was impressive. He got like 1,100 yards rushing. He blew my expectations out of the water, and he was definitely one of the pieces of why the team was as good as they were last year. And even this year, I think he had a pretty long stint on IR. Ended up being more than the 4 games minimum. I don't know, was it like 7 games? But when he came back, even towards the end of the season, he was still not bad. Like he still had at least one game where it's like, man, I think he had like 90 plus yards in a game in the last few games of the season. Mm-hmm. He was still a force to be reckoned with and a good, solid contributor on offense. But I think he's going to make something like $10 million in 2026. I don't know how much of that is recoupable if you were to get rid of him. But running backs are just, yes, the best of the best running backs are irreplaceable. Look at prime Adrian Peterson. Look at, James Cook right now in Buffalo. Look at CMC in San Francisco. But Aaron Jones, he's not in that category right now. He's in the better than average category. He's good. He's still good. And even if the Vikings get rid of him, his career's not over. But I think running back is one that you should be able to replace because you already have Jordan Mason there. And if you give Jordan Mason a good tandem running back, maybe a first-round rookie even, or a cheaper free agent, I think Aaron Jones might be one of the easier ones to replace on that list.
I think I said it, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 episodes now, but Jeremiah Love is a really interesting prospect at running back for the Vikings, and I don't know that he'll fall that far
from
in
Notre
the draft.
Dame.
Yeah, from Notre Dame. I feel like he'll go probably within the first 10 picks, if I had to guess. But, boy, he would be an awesome get for the Vikings for all the reasons you just said. He'd be a good tandem with Jordan Mason, and he'd have time to grow and develop. He wouldn't have to be the premier back. He wouldn't have to be your every down back, your bell cow getting, all the carries and, all the yards every game. So that's definitely a wish list item for me going into the draft is, man, if the Vikings can either not give up a ton to work their way up a few picks to go get him, or if he falls all the way to 18 where they are, that would be huge.
Yep.
And then you don't have to pay Aaron Jones $10 million. And there's another big chunk of change that you save towards the cap. And, you can either pay some of these guys that are worth keeping, like maybe TJ, because I feel like you did give some good reasons to pay TJ.
Or at least keep him, not necessarily pay him more.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're still going to have to pay him something. You're not going to play for free.
Yep.
But like Ryan Kelly, he had a good season.
Unfortunately, I think he might be done, though.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there, but
I think actually I was thinking more of Will Fries.
Oh, okay.
I think Will Fries had a pretty solid season, but he's not up for free agency.
He signed like an $88 million contract last year, and it was like a 5-year deal, and he's only one into it. And I'm a fan of Will Fries. Sure, you could probably tell me like, oh, he whiffed on this, but for my level of football watching, I think Will Fries was a positive force on that Vikings offensive line. And I don't think you were trying to say anything other, but
no. So let's talk, because I kind of already went down that route, but let's go fully down the path of draft and free agency. If you're Kwesi, what's the first phone call you're making to either A, a potential draft candidate, or B, a top free agency get that you really want to go after?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of flip the script on something I've been publicly against recently. And this isn't necessarily like a free agent move, but it's more a move to gain draft capital and cap space. I'm to the point now that you could convince me if the Vikings got a good enough trade deal from another team, I think you could move on from Jonathan Grenard. I like him as a Viking. I still think I think I said it a few weeks ago. You can't overvalue how good a good edge rusher is in today's NFL. It's, one of the most important positions you can have. And Grenard is really good when healthy. And honestly, this year he was a little banged up, but most of the time he's been healthy. But when you do have, the 17th overall pick from 2024, starting to turn it on a little bit in Dallas Turner, right behind Jonathan Grenard, it kind of gives you the wiggle room and the ability to say, hey, if a team is offering us a requisite deal, and I don't know what that would be. Is that, do they need a first-round pick to move on from Grenard? Maybe. I think with the right team and the right deal, they could get a first-round pick. Definitely at least a second or third. They could probably get a package of decent picks for him, which would help you with draft, which I think the Vikings have. I think they have 7 picks, but 3 of them are 7th-round picks. They've got the first 3, and then it's kind of sprinkled in for the next 4 through 7. But if you can move on from Grenard and get, a few decent picks in return while saving that draft capital, that would be good. Other than that, in the draft, running back help would be nice, especially if they do move on from Aaron Jones. They would almost need to look to the draft for running back help. Admittedly, the only real running back I know that's draftable is Love from
Jeremiah Love,
from Notre Dame. I am not a draft expert, and definitely not one that has enough opinion in January to be able to say like, oh, here's my guy in the 3rd round, he's a sleeper, look for him. Like, I'm a very casual draft fan, but usually by the time we get into April, I'm like, well, they could do this or this, and I'd be okay with it, but nothing beforehand. And if Ryan Kelly is truly done, I don't know if the Vikings, maybe they're super happy with Michael Juergens. Maybe Blake Brandel is a really good option. But either way, they're going to have to bolster that offensive line and probably get a starter-level player, whether it's in the first round or they luck out with a late-round pick or they sign somebody in free agency. But yeah, running back, center, and then we could always make the argument for quarterback as well. What do you think? What are your thoughts on free agency, draft, trading away players, trading for players? What do you think?
I think on offense anyways, the 2 biggest position groups you need to target are quarterback and running back, especially if Aaron Jones is gone, and I think you let him go with just the injuries and his age,
Mm-hmm.
You like him as a guy. You wish him well. Maybe he gets another 1-year deal somewhere else, rides off into the sunset. Who knows? But I think you really target those 2. You've got a pretty star-studded cast otherwise on offense. If you can keep your offensive line healthy and they can get some chemistry together and they can figure out how to work with JJ, I think you're going to see a pretty explosive Vikings offense. And then I think on the other side is that secondary. Your defense needs safeties specifically. Harrison Smith is going to leave huge shoes to fill, gigantic shoes to fill, and that's not
if
hyperbole.
He leaves, I'm still not. I haven't emotionally coped with that one yet.
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall, but I'm not. It's not hyperbole. Like, those are some of the biggest shoes to fill in the league.
He is one of the greatest Vikings in team history. I mean, he's definitely on the list. I'm not saying he's the greatest Viking, but he's definitely on the list. Put him on the all Vikings team.
So I think the Vikings need help with cornerbacks too, and that was something we said going into the season, and it never really got better throughout the season.
Yeah,
they played okay, and when Harrison Smith finally turned it on there at the end, he was fun to watch, and Byron Murphy did okay. He didn't have an outstanding season, but it wasn't like, teams were throwing on him left and right, and he was giving up all these huge plays. Yeah,
I think at some point, into the season, midway through the season, you mentioned something about Byron Murphy. Like, he's not really doing anything. But then I was agreeing with you, but then it kind of dawned on me, like,
it's actually a good thing.
It kind of also means, like, they're not throwing at him too much. We're not saying, oh, he gave up all these yards. We're just saying, oh, he doesn't have all these picks. Like, Byron Murphy earned the right to not get a bunch of stats this past season. I think it was a good thing. Again, you could, the eagle-eyed fan could tell me, no, his stats were actually pretty terrible, and he was awful because of this, which, sure, whatever. But from my casual fanhood watching here, I think Byron Murphy actually did pretty good. But outside of that, like you said, DBs, it's not really much. I mean, a few of them got fired. Like Isaiah Rodgers, he had that crazy awesome game against the Bengals, but then he had some rough spots too. I'd want him back, which I think he is under contract for 2026, but like, he wasn't perfect. Jay Ward, I think, got some more playing time this year, but that was mostly because other guys just weren't up to snuff.
So there's one thing we haven't talked about yet, and I think we can kind of round out our discussion for today. We've talked about it before. But coaching, obviously Brian Flores is very much in the mix for these head coaching jobs, and we're in for, I think, a historic NFL coaching cycle here. Like, there are a lot of openings, there are a lot of big names. John Harbaugh getting fired was kind of a shock.
Yeah,
to the
that
NFL
was wild.
world.
I didn't expect that.
And Brian Flores has just been quietly leading one of the league's best defenses in Minnesota for the last handful of years, and he wants that opportunity, but we've also kind of seen it as Vikings fans that he's not going to leave unless the opportunity's right, and I think that really limits his options. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him, and I think that will be news whenever that happens. Either he stays and signs an extension with Minnesota, or he leaves to take a head coaching job somewhere else. What do you think will happen? What's most likely with B-Flow?
Well, I'll start with what I want to happen. I want him to stay with the Vikings.
Yes, we all do.
We've kind of heard, again, rumblings that there may have been some kind of a personnel issue that may have happened involving Flores and other people within the Vikings organization, but apparently that wasn't enough to, blow everything up. But even with that, I think that the team probably still wants him back. It sounds like KOC is still in his corner and wants Brian Flores back. So I still am of the mindset that Flores is not going to leave the Vikings for a lateral move. I think the Vikings, if Flores doesn't get a head coaching job, he will end up with a contract as the defensive coordinator of the Vikings, which it is running out, like you just said, at the end of this season. And one thing I also haven't really heard is I think we've only officially heard that he's interviewing for one team so far. The only thing I've seen official is he interviewing with the Ravens?
The Ravens, yep.
He either has interviewed with them or plans to. I think they've announced. I think that's the only official one that's been announced. I think I saw somebody tweet that he is currently the Vegas betting favorite to land the Las Vegas Raiders job as of like yesterday, but they mentioned like it's not even official that he's been, they've requested to interview him. So like there's still a lot of unknowns there. And I don't think even though there's 7 head coaching openings, 7 or 8, no one's been hired yet. Now granted, it's still wildcard weekend. It's still pretty early, and I'm not sure when the first hire usually happens, but I feel like usually there's at least somebody hired by now. And I may be wrong on that, but it seems like it's getting pretty deep for no vacancy to be filled yet. There's been, I think Matt Ryan officially took that football operations job with the Falcons, but they still need a GM and a coach. I think there's been 1 or 2 other GMs that have been hired, but no head coaches. So I think unless this lawsuit's not a big deal and some teams like, yeah, we do want Brian Flores, I think he'll end up being back with the Vikings for at least 1 more year, hopefully more. But you never know. He might get a head coaching job, which he seems to be, at least as a coach, well deserving of. So yeah, I'm hoping he's back, and I don't think he would leave for a defensive coordinator job. What do you think? Do you want him back?
I mean, I think all Vikings fans want him back. He's been arguably the best defensive coach we've had since Mike Zimmer. But I think I'm predicting right now Arizona.
You think the Cardinals will hire him?
That's where he's going to go, I think. I know he's, the betting favorite to go to Vegas. I don't know that he wants to go to an organization that's got a lot of issues like Vegas does, and Vegas is so interesting, not just because of where it is geographically, but the market itself is so warped. Nobody lives in Vegas. Everybody visits Vegas, but they don't live there. And there was even drama with the Oakland A's moving to Vegas. They couldn't get the copyright. They couldn't get the trademark for athletics.
Yeah, Vegas Athletics or whatever.
So I think it's just stuff like that I could see a guy like Brian Flores being like, no, I don't want all that. Arizona seems like it's ready to go. Like they're not going to be a playoff team next season if he's the head coach, probably. But it seems like Kyler's kind of on his way out. They've got a decent foundation there. He can kind of pick and choose who stays, who goes with both players and coaches. He'd have a lot of flexibility. Arizona's really nice all the time. It's, very temperate, and it's definitely not as cold as Minnesota. So I could see all those things being reasons why Brian Flores is like, yeah, we can give Arizona a shot. And he also I don't think he has any vendetta against that particular organization in the NFL. So
yeah, maybe. So in that scenario, if Flores were to leave for Arizona or any head coaching job, can you think of, and this would be a difficult question for me too, can you think of who might be a good defensive coordinator? I ask because the now most recent Arizona head coach, is it Gannon? He was a Vikings defensive assistant on the coaching staff. I don't know if he did like linebackers or DBs just, a handful of years ago, and then he moved to Philly to be their DC and then head coach in Arizona. But there's a few guys out there.
I think, is his name Durante Moore? Or Durante something.
Oh, Durante. I think it's Jones. Current Vikings defensive coach. Assistant coach.
I read something this week that said that they should promote within because it would leave a lot of continuity with the defense. And I tend to agree with that. If you can even be 70% as good as Brian Flores' defense, if it's that versus 50% as good with anybody else outside of the organization, well, then you promote the inside guy, and maybe bring in someone else. Maybe you bring in not a Gannon, not a like head coach caliber type of guy, but you bring in someone else to help under that. But yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, just because I saw the tweet, I think Gannon might be a good filler for a defensive coordinator. Who was the most recent Atlanta head coach. Was that Raheem Morris?
Mm-hmm.
I saw, which I knew, but I had forgotten that Morris and Kevin O'Connell were the defensive and offensive coordinators in with the Rams when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, right before O'Connell came to Minnesota. So that might be a good fit if Morris doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere else. Mostly, in my opinion, I think if the Vikings were to lose out on Flores, which I hope doesn't happen, I don't think, all would be lost. I think even if it took a year or two to mesh and get everything figured out in the system, I think there's still good defensive coordinator names out there. And I think Kevin O'Connell and Minnesota is a good enough spot that they can be a good place for someone that may have options to choose Minnesota to be a defensive coordinator there. So I think ultimately it will end up being okay, but I definitely, my plan A, my hope A is for Flores to continue in Minnesota.
Regardless of what happens, I think we could be in for another big kind of apple cart upset like we were last year. Like there was a lot of movement last year, and here we are, and doesn't look like a lot is going to stay the same. And I think that's fairly typical of NFL teams these days. Guys move on, guys retire, guys, want more money, find greener grass elsewhere. But it just seems like the Vikings are in this cycle right now where there's not going to be a lot of continuity year to year. There's going to be a lot of turnover. There's a good core, right? Like Justin Jefferson's not going anywhere. We're grateful for that. Dallas Turner really made a name for himself. I don't think he's going anywhere, at least while he's still on his rookie contract. Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, some of those core guys, they're not going anywhere. We don't have to worry about them, at least for now.
Yeah, at least for this coming season.
But I still think a lot of those other guys could be, caught up in this mix-up for sure.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We're sitting here January 12th. By the time the Vikings kick off on their first game here early September, there's a potential. There's a lot of like potential blow-up storylines that could happen this offseason for the Vikings. You're talking, you mentioned Justin Jefferson and how he's not going anywhere, but there could be... they could do something as extreme as trade for Joe Burrow, or as crazy as sign Jim Harbaugh as their defensive coordinator. There's a list of those things that could be crazy enough that they just might happen, or they keep JJ McCarthy as QB1 and they don't make any free agent moves or restructures or re-signings or trades or anything, and they just try to run it back. But I think the thing that makes me think the most that there might be at least one big move, at least once this offseason, we're going to be like, whoa, hey, this is kind of crazy, whatever it is. The reason for that is, you're coming off a rough season. And yes, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, their extensions are about to kick in for the 2026 season. But they could still be coaching or GMing for their futures. So there could be that desperation of I have a few more deals left on my deal, but if JJ McCarthy doesn't work out, I'm stuck with him. So we need to come up with another plan, or something like that. So there could be at least one move that's Kwesi's doing this because he's trying to make the big splash to say, hey, look, I am a good GM. Or KOC's going to make one hire or one, player decision because it's he's doing that because he's coaching for his job now. So there could be something like that happen, and it's kind of exciting whether or not you're here for it, whether or not you or I agree with whatever big splash may or may not happen. It's still going to be exciting. The worst thing is to sit here and be they didn't do anything. That would be so boring.
We'll have plenty to talk about from now until September. I'm very confident of that. We've been doing this podcast for almost 3 years now. I don't see any shortage of topics to talk about, Vikings related, from now until the season. And then when the season starts, we get to just look ahead and recap each game. So
yeah, May will be the start of our 4th year doing this
crazy.
podcast, which is awesome.
It's crazy.
I say because I just watched Aaron Rodgers get strip sacked, and then the Saints, big boy, picked it up. Or the Texans picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown to make it 16-6 in the 4th quarter. That was crazy.
That is crazy.
Anyways, here I am recapping or live, announcing a game that anybody listening will. This game's been done for 2 days by then. So
I will say, because we don't know the outcome of the game at this point, never count out Aaron Rodgers.
Never count him out, but there's 11 minutes and 23 seconds left, and they're about to be down by 11 points, what was the turning point for the Bears? How far down were they? Like 11 points with some odd minutes left?
I went to bed when it was 21-3.
Yeah, but when the Bears, that was halftime, but then at one point, Michael Golden? He had scored a touchdown to make it like an 11-point game in the 4th quarter, I'm pretty sure. And the Bears came back. So, like you said, never count out Aaron Rodgers. If anybody can do it, even at 40-something years old, I think Rodgers can, unfortunately.
Well, never count out Big Grove.
Yeah.
They made a Zero Eddy beer that's probably just as good as an Easy Eddy,
yeah,
I would say.
I would say so. It's definitely in that category.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, did you think about it at all? If someone had handed this to you, do you think you would have immediately been like, hey, well, this is good, but like there's something different? Like, would you have picked up on that? I would have
noticed something different. You can tell that there's no alcohol in it. And typically like an Easy Eddy or I forget all the different variations of Eddy that they have.
Oh, there's a handful, yeah.
But I feel like they're all like, they're that hazy IPA, but you can feel the booziness in it. Not in a bad way, not in a like, oh, you better not have that on your breath going somewhere else, but just in a like, oh yeah, that's beer, and this doesn't quite have that. Not in a bad way at all. You said it earlier, it definitely scratches the itch, especially if you're trying to cut back on drinking real beer. So yeah, I'll replace a real beer with this any day of the week.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think an Easy Eddy is about a 6% beer. So there's a big difference between a 6% beer and a beer that's, as much as 0.5%. 0.5%. So yeah, there's a big difference there. And I guarantee if I had them side by side, I would immediately be able to tell, like, oh, yep, this is the full Eddy. This is the Easy Eddy, and this one's the Zero Eddy. But as far as flavor goes, and someone who very much, Easy Eddy is one of my favorite beers. It's in my favorite category of beers. It's probably one that I have, most often among, like, a craft beer. This Zero Eddy still, it does it for me. It's still, there's not any alcohol content, so I'm not getting that buzz, which that's one thing. But I have one of these any day. I'm really impressed with the level of quality that Big Grove was still able to get with this while still not having any alcohol content, any worthy alcohol content at all. So Big Grove, good job. I really like it.
Yeah, good beer for sure. Where can people find us if they're looking to get more Skol hop in their life?
We are everywhere on the internet. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our website, theskolhop.com. We've got an email address if you want to reach out to us. I think we still have a sticker flying around here if you want one. theskolhop@gmail.com. YouTube, definitely check out our YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces here. We post every episode video on YouTube, and it's the same audio, but I think there's some value in watching this. Throw us on while you're cooking dinner or something. So we're out there, and definitely give us a comment on YouTube, tweet us on, X or Twitter. We're everywhere. If you Google the Skol Hop, you will find us, I promise.
The way you said everything or everywhere reminded me of Nate Bargatze. Everything, all of it.
What is that from?
It's from those little sketches he did as George Washington.
Oh yeah,
where I think the first one was all about how we'll choose our own systems of weights and measures, and then the next one's all about like food and how we'll have a name for food when it's an animal, and then we'll have a different name for it when it's food. Everything, all of it. I think that was like in response to like, what's in a hot dog?
Oh yeah,
everything, all of it.
I'm a sucker for a good Nate Bargatze bit. I think he's been on SNL at least 2 or 3 times. So
yeah, he's pretty funny. Well, I thought we covered as much as we could really in a short time, with everything kind of on the horizon for the Vikings, and we got to drink a pretty good beer while we did it.
Absolutely. Listener, go ahead and go check out, again, we'll put it in the show notes, that Vikings Territory article. Again, it's titled Where the Vikings Go From Here After 2025. Check it out. Ali Siddiqui, and again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He did a really good job with that article. It's definitely an opinion-based article with some fact as the basis of it, but I enjoyed it, and that's obviously why we kind of based our whole episode today on it. It's a good snapshot of where the Vikings could go this year. Loved the beer. Evan, I'm glad you liked it too, at least to some extent. For me, it's a good NA beer. But yeah, Evan, great beer. Really great conversation.
Maybe best episode yet.
Maybe. Skol.